just one quick thought this morning. The Prophet Malachi has two very powerful expressions in our first reading. So one, he describes God as the refiner, and this is, it sounds like a nice image, and it is a nice image, but there's a challenging side to it. So when refining was done by hand, obviously it was the work of a professional, or the work of someone who knew what he was doing. So you have to stoke up the fire, get the fire quite hot, and put in your little cauldron with your silver, and it was mixed with other metals as well. I think they used zinc and some other metals to make the whole smelting process more stable. I'm not quite sure what exactly it's for, but they'd mix other metals. And then the refiner would have to watch constantly as this mix started to melt. Because if it's not hot enough, it won't melt. If it's too hot, you can damage the thing. You have to heat it at a rate that works for the process. So you have to constantly watch. And then as it starts to melt, some of the impurities burn off, the zinc burns off, and some of the others come to the top. And then you have to very gently kind of scrape off or pour off this top layer of impurity. And you might have seen this on the internet now, but when do you know that the silver is purified? When the refiner is refining, he knows it's purified when he can see his own reflection in it. So when he looks into this kind of cauldron of molten silver and can see his reflection like in a mirror, then it's pure. So there's this image of a refiner. When you think of us, right? What does it mean? It means volumes. It means, firstly, the Father's eyes, the Father's gaze is always on us. So we're always seen, we are always known, and we are always loved. Always. By the Lord. So his gaze is constantly fixed on us. But the challenging or difficult side of it is that being refined, I don't think we describe it as pleasant. It's not exactly nice to be melted down, you know. And I think when you are walking with the Lord, it is His job and it is His responsibility to prune us. And that pruning can be uncomfortable. It can be disconcerting. It can be maybe even outright angering, you know, because things that you leaned on, or things that you thought you had, things that you thought defined you as you, if and when they're taken from you, there's almost like a grieving process. You know, it can be difficult. But what's the purpose of it all? The purpose of it all is so that in the end we become more Christ-like, that God can look into us, if you will, and see the reflection of His Son. That we become more like God. This doesn't get any more important. This doesn't get any bigger. We must be refined so that we can be like Him. But it can be a difficult process. Yes, but okay, you fast forward to the end of that process, what do you have? You've got something precious and beautiful and magnificent, and something then that once it is pure silver, then it's crafted into something by an artist, by an expert, by a professional, into beautiful ear-grabbing jewelry, or a chalice, or something beautiful. So what I'm saying is, like, while it's difficult, it is absolutely worth it. It is, and not only is it worth it, it's necessary. It's absolutely necessary for us to be refined. Otherwise, we don't change, we don't grow, we don't become like God, and then you might miss heaven. What on earth would the point of all of that be? Okay, the second thing that the Prophet Malachi says in our reading, which is powerful, and again, there's kind of a sad side to it almost. He shall turn the hearts of fathers towards their children, and the hearts of children towards their fathers. He shall turn the hearts of fathers towards their children, and the hearts of children towards their fathers. It's interesting that he focuses on that relationship, this key relationship in the family, the father and his children. It's so key for the building up of society, for healthy families, We've spoken on different occasions here about just the catastrophic attack on men, masculinity, and fatherhood in recent decades. So much so now that marriages fall apart left, right, and centre. So many women are actually afraid of a long-term commitment with a man because they're not used to being treated well. Men who are just given over to pleasure-seeking and addiction and so on. They're not all bad. I am one myself. I do my best, but they're not all bad. Of course, they're not all bad. But what the point I'm making is that fatherhood, masculinity, these are under serious attack, and what has happened or what is happening is very, very serious. Because the family will go the way of the father, and society will go the way of the family. So if you want to fix society, fix fatherhood. And the enemy knows that, God knows that, and so there's a lot to play for. It's interesting that the expression goes on, he will turn the hearts of fathers towards their children, the hearts of children towards their fathers, lest I come and strike the land with a curse. Now this isn't obviously God saying, I'm going to smite you all, but if we don't get this relationship right, then, if you will, like the land is cursed. I mean, if we have all the wealth and good weather and whatever else you want, but the family is falling apart, then what do you have? What do you have? And we see that if you work with young people these days, you'll see that. And no matter what they have, if they haven't got a good relationship at home, everything else is rubbish. It's all just plastic. It's all meaningless. So, in this season of Advent, as we prepare now for the coming of the Lord, we can see the need for the coming of the light, the coming of the healer, the coming of this little baby who brings so much hope. There is a profound need for him in our own world today. There's a need for us to be refined. There's a need for us to be pruned so that we can be also, in our own turn, a reflection of that light, a reflection of that joy, a reflection of God himself in the world. So we ask the Lord. We give him permission to refine us so that we can be his missionaries, his hands, his feet, and his consoling presence in the world. Amen.